Well, good. I have 10 minutes and then we have 5 minutes for questions. So I want to thank first Julia for inviting me and letting me incorporate our study. You'll see the very bottom of this first page of the book with contributions from Julia Mossbridge in my book that I'm going to be not only speaking about today briefly, but in the chat you will see links that will allow you to look at it and download it if you would like for yourself. It's a free book. I'm wanting to share it. This book came to me in seed form in dreams in my early 30s. I'm in my mid 70s now. Around the same time that 3 Mile Island happened in 1980, and I began environmental activism and research and writing, this book kind of appeared as a possibility for me. And now that it's actually manifested, it's my exploration of attunement, of receptivity, particularly to the earth and in service of the earth, not as a form of environmental activism outwardly, but as a form of subtle or spiritual activism to deepen our harmony with nature. So this book is part of my wife and my heart response to the climate crisis and the great turning it calls us to make if we're going to survive and evolve. Next slide, please, or page, please, Cordell. So I hope you can see this well, friends. The first section of the book after the introduction is very interactive. It's a set of letters I wrote about the process of attunement as I learned it at the Findhorn community in Scotland. I wrote it for a group of poets that I do a writing group with through the Institute for Poetic Medicine. So it's very interactive, and attunement is placed at the service of connecting with our local environments and writing in reverence and concern for the earth. The attunement letters are first. Stories from a country where all colors are sacred and alive are excerpts and additions to some stories about true experiences that I had of synchronicity, of various kinds of demonstrations of manifestation and attunement, particularly in connection with nature, to develop and build the reader's sense of possibilities as they built mine. The poems come next with my wife Leslie's photographs, beautifying them and in some cases merging where the poem is juxtaposed over the photo. Then I'm going to spend a little extra time on Julia's study here. I helped her design it. I was helping to fund it. And it's called Can We Heal the Earth with Intuition? Case report of an intuition guided approach to enhancing exploration in climate science. More on that. And I will only have barely enough time to just show you one of the lyrics to the songs in the book. Many of the songs are teaching songs and relate to different approaches to climate change mitigation. Many of the songs are songs of reverence or connection with nature. Some came in dreams, but each and every one of them can be played because the book is an ebook or has links that can be accessed to play the songs. Next, please, the next page. Here you see the woman who taught me attunement at the Findhorn community in 1969, Dorothy McLean. This is a community in Scotland where extraordinary gardens were being built on very poor soil. They were being built in part that way successfully because Dorothy developed an ability to attune to the forces of nature in such a way that it was possible to collaborate with those forces. And much of the book is based on that kind of ethic or value of collaboration. But how did this happen? It happened because she spent 10 years attuning only to what she called the living silence, to spirit. And the depth of her communion was such that she found that she could attune to anything or being with a slight intention and a deep receptive rest after she made conscious connection with that source of all things and beings. Next page, please. And here are the other two co-founders of the Findhorn community. If you look in a book called the Findhorn Garden Book that came out years ago, you'll see a picture of me and some other guys mixing up a batch of compost that came from an attunement that Dorothy did with what we then called the landscape deva or angel of the area that was overlighting the Findhorn area. We got specific information there that led to great compost. I make compost here in our place in the Northwest Arkansas Ozarks on our 1.5 acres where we do organic gardening and some forest permaculture work too. And this was a starting point for me where I saw the benefits of attunement can go beyond just an internal experience and extend into benefits for the living world. Next one, please. And here are 3 guys who are doing a lot for the living world. On the right, Albert Bates. In the middle, Daniel Wall, and to the left, Thomas Garreau. These are all environmental researchers and authors in the realm of regenerative agriculture and marine restoration. I have written at length in these letters about the work of these people, which I've supported. These folks who I've met through the Findhorn community and who are doing extraordinary work in the world, so that I'm not just speaking about the internal aspects of this subtle activist work that I was referring to, but I'm also working directly with people who are very sensitive and receptive to those realms, but are also scientifically savvy and are doing great work around the world. I wanted to include that work in the book because it's so essential. Next one, please. Yeah, now we move to section 2, which are the stories. And the one I decided to share with you briefly was my first strong confirmation of intuition. Throughout the book, there are drawings and paintings by Robert Sudlow, the landscape artist who died at age 90, who was my mentor, probably the most nature-attuned person I've ever met. This is one of me, right around the time that I had this experience sitting at the high school science teacher's table at lunch. There was going to be a drawing. There was a glass jar of beans we were showed, and we were invited to guess the number of beans in it and to write it down. And to next day there would be a winner. So I said to the whole table clearly, and I don't know why, it's 452. Remember, I said that tomorrow. It just blurted out of my mouth. And the next day, right before the drawing, I said the same damn thing again. And it was 452. And maybe you've had an experience like that. There's this confirmative experience of those potentials that are inherent in our spirits. This was a big one for me. It really got my attention. And actually, Julia called this 452 experience precognitive clairaudience. I thought that was very interesting. Now we're going to just continue our whirlwind tour to the next page, which is in the section of poems, Cordell.
Yeah, and just to let you know, we are running about 5 to 6 minutes to the end. So
Okay.
if you would like to continue on, we can ask questions in the main event lobby.
Okay, here's the, so have I done about 9 minutes? Cordell?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I really regret not sharing more of Julia's piece, so let's go forward a little bit. You can see here there's a section of poems, and those last 2 lines, something immediate trembles in us, an offering to the whole universe. Carry on to the next page, please. You know, in Julia's study, which she did with John Vivanco, one of the most significant questions that was asked of the precognitive remote viewers, and who did not know the question that they were asked until afterwards, after their responses. I might have been a little confusing there. They weren't told the questions, they just responded in sessions. And 5 of them responded to this particular question from 2 atmospheric physicists in a way that was particularly interesting. I think we'll go right to the next page. 5 of them gave drawings, sketches, and verbal impressions that indicated that some kind of bioluminescent diatom or dinoflagellite ocean microorganisms could be used in gel-like solar panel-like structures to create free energy. This next page, please, was probably one of the most suggestive parts of the study with Julia. Forgive me, by the way, for the size of these. You can see them in the book itself in greater size. And this study to me was particularly significant because it's the first such study we know of specific to intuition and climate science, where these two atmospheric physicists generated the questions, and it's hopefully the first of many such collaborations. So yes, let's go ahead to the questions here. I regret not having more time to share with you. I would sing you a song if I could from the last part of the book. Do I go to the chat now or Q&A, Cordell?
Go right ahead to the Q&A where people
Q&A.
can continue to ask
And I
questions.
see no open questions at the moment.
In that case, why don't you continue presenting things that you may wish to do?
Yeah, well, let's go back a page, and let's see if we can bring larger. It's a little hard to see because the precognitive remote viewer's sketches are a little bit light. But over and over again, there's a sense of the power in some kind of organic matter to create light or to create energy. Again, I want to emphasize that in this kind of information retrieval, intuitive information retrieval, the questions are not given to the people that are coming up with responses. This is precognitive plus, as far as I can see. It's amazing, and double blind ×2. I would like to go to the last page now. The song. Yeah, this is the last song of a number of them in which I have shared a lot of different kinds of passion and prayer and beauty that I sense in nature. This particular song, Night Sky Medicine, came at a time when I was feeling a lot of grief, not only about the pandemic, but about climate changes. And it took me a hell of a long time to write it because I was not working so much, I realized, on the song as I was on myself, as I continued reaching for strength and hope. And finally, I brought together a kind of union of grief and sorrow and hope in a way that felt to me like it was healing for me and might be for others. And in fact, you'll see in the songs that there's a lot of internal healing available, as always there is with soulful music. Well, I've said enough. I'm going to go back to questions. I see there is one. How would you recommend seeking out a mentor? What process did you go through finding yours? I don't know if I want to, yeah, I'll answer this live. I feel like it's been grace in many ways. I've just been very fortunate to meet people, but I have been very proactive when I've felt some kind of sense of connection with a person, even if I've barely known them. I have been the kind of guy who's tended to go out and really make efforts to be in touch with that person. I've made many a pilgrimage to see people who I felt were inspiring to me or were spiritually more mature than me. And so a lot of the process was just getting a sense of that possibility in someone and then really following through and continuing to connect and not treating them as if they were in some ways on some other level than myself, although many of them are, but seeing the humanity in them as well as what we might call the guru function or the teacher function or the wisdom voice. Any other questions? And is there time for them anyway, Cordell?
If there are any additional questions, I encourage people to ask them in the main chat lobby.
Yeah, looks like we're all in. Cordell, thank you for your help here. And folks who I haven't seen, blessings to you all. I hope the rest of the conference is a really good experience for you.
Thank you for the presentation, Geoff.
All right.